Hey everyone, welcome to episode 277 of the Old Dolphins podcast. On Saturday night, April 27th, the 2024 NFL draft is over.
Post-draft haul is here.
Yes,
We
as
even
we're
know about some undrafted rookies. Not that we're going to discuss that now because we got 7 draftees that we have not broken down for you.
correctamundo. And again, chances are one or two of these numerous undrafted rookie free agents will wind up sticking on the 53-man roster. The expectation, if you're going to start, I'm going to be the bad guy again. The expectation, if you start seeing name after name and going, oh, yeah, this guy, oh, this guy, this guy. Again, this is where I caution everyone. There's a reason they were undrafted. If one of those sticks, it's a bonus.
One of them, I haven't been here a single season since 2007 where an undrafted rookie hasn't made the team. Not one. 53, not just.
Go back to 2020. I believe go back to 2020. I'm not sure any of them made it, and I think that was part because of COVID and because there was no off season. So I believe, but you're right. But generally speaking, we're talking what, one or two. Last year was Julian Hill and Brandon Peely made the initial 53. There might have been another one. I don't remember. Nick Needham
You're gonna
made
make me look up 2020.
No, I'm not going to do that. Take my word for it, man. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It happens. That's just...
All right, come on. Let's rock.
Okay, let's rock. So today the Dolphins concluded their draft. They did something that they've done before. They didn't have a fourth-round pick. They traded into the fourth-round pick. They traded their own 2025 third-round selection to the Philadelphia Eagles to get a fourth-round pick. They did that, the expectation that they're going to get third-round compensatory picks because of the free agent departures of Christian Wilkins, Robert Hunt. Please understand that the compensatory pick formula is based mostly on the size of the contract signed by a departing free agent, but also factors in postseason honors and playing time. So, for example, knock on wood for these guys, but if something happens to either one of those two and they wind up on IR the whole season, I'm not 100% sure that remains a third-round pick. For example, what happened to Juwan James when he signed with the Denver Broncos and he tore an ACL right away. The comp pick that had been projected to the Dolphins wound up being a lot less than it would have been. Correct. And I know there was somebody on, I don't know if it was suggested, the pick to the Dolphins. It's not a case where the Dolphins can say, okay, we're going to give you, we'll decide later which one of our third-round picks is going to be. No, it's the one that they have because they don't officially have a third-round compensatory pick yet. So anyway, they moved up. And as far as if you're wondering about the value, understand that for every year you delay a pick, it loses a round in value. So a 2024 fourth-round pick is worth a 2025 third-round pick because you have to wait for it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, with that fourth-round pick, the Dolphins took running back Jaylen Wright from Tennessee. Do we want to discuss player, or just run down the whole?
Let's go with the player because let's run down the whole thing and then get to player because Jaylen Wright was picked in the 4th round after the trade up. Then you've got in the 6th round because they had correction. 5th round with pick number 158, they selected Mo Kamara, which is Muhammad Kamara, Colorado State pass rusher. If you watched the last episode, you know that he was on my man crush list. Oddly enough, Mike McDaniel knew that he was on my man crush list or that I was a big fan of his. Somebody must have gave him a report on my tweeting. Virginia receiver Malik Washington was taken in the 6th round. Slot receiver, one of the top producing slot receivers in college football last year after transferring to Virginia. Then in the 6th round, they took California safety Patrick McMorris, who was a San Diego State transfer. And in the 7th round, they took another slot receiver, USC receiver Taj Washington. So the Dolphins basically added a speedy running back, 2 slot receivers, a smallish edge rusher, and a small but productive edge rusher, and a young safety.
Correct. So are we starting with at the top? We're starting with Jaylen Wright.
Yes, and then we can put them with Chop Robinson, who was the first round pick number 21. And then in the second round, the Dolphins drafted Houston developmental left tackle Patrick Paul, pick number 55. We discussed them in an earlier episode, I believe 276. And this is really going to round out the day and give our overviews on the draft. And so right now, let's start with the tailback, who Jaylen Wright, who a lot of people love.
Okay. Well, I have a question. First of all, is developmental left tackle a new position in the NFL?
Well, he's not a polished, proven left tackle. He's a developmental left tackle.
I'm just playing because you felt the need to include developmental before the position. But okay, that's cool. But I'm not arguing with you because that's kind of.
I mean, it's generally, if you select a left tackle in the second round, don't you generally think this guy's going to be a starter? Just saying.
I'd have to go back, but I'd have to go back. You're not wrong. Okay, Jaylen Wright. Guess what his calling card is? Shocker, speed, 4.38. More long speed than he is short area quickness, but he's fast. His yards per carry average was 7.4.
Great contact balance. That's one of the things that really intrigues me about him. Also, he's known as a very respectable pass protector. And if you don't know me, you know I'm from the Don Solinger School of running backs. And if you cannot pass protect, you cannot play.
For those who don't know, and I'm going to guess that's probably 85% of you out there, Don Solinger is a former legendary high school football coach in South Florida, Miami Southridge High, who then became an assistant at the University of Miami.
And coached a ridiculous line of running backs in the NFL and a tremendous array of NFL stars, from Willis McGahee, Edgerrin James, Clinton Portis, Najee Davenport, not that he was a star, James Jackson, Frank Gore. The list goes on and on and on and on. Yep.
Actually, when I first got into the journalism business, long time ago, actually, he was the head coach at Miami Southridge High.
And the Davis brothers, Troy and Darren Davis.
Correct. They were after my time over there. So anyway, good player.
Mm-hmm.
Good value pick at 5.
Mm-hmm.
Overkill.
Wait a minute. This is going to be our first sparring match here. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Rock'em sock'em. What I like about the draft selection is you had a conviction about a player for valid reasons. You went out and you got him. You wanted him. He was clearly, if they moved in to the 4th round, which they didn't have a 4th round pick, traded up, gave up a future asset for him, that was clearly, in my mind, a player that they said, this guy is a top 100 player on our board. And here we are at 120. He's still on the board, if not a top 50 player on our board. Here he is, still sitting out there. This is a great value pick. We need to make it happen.
That's all fine and dandy. And wow, kudos for having conviction, but having conviction and following through on your conviction, while fine and dandy, does not make it a good pick. To me, again, if we look, I think you and I both agree, correct me if I'm wrong, you're building for 2024. And then you're looking at it. This is a 2-year view. They're not even my words. Those are Chris Greer's words.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
do we believe that they're building for 2024?
Well, what?
Do we believe that they're building for 2024?
No, I meant winning in 2024, building for 2025. That's the 2-course meal. Correct me if I'm wrong. Devon Achane is going to be there in 2024 and 2025.
Yes, he is.
Mostert just got a contract extension to give him another year.
Yes, he did.
Guaranteed before the void year kicks in 2026.
Okay.
Again, how many speed running backs do you need?
You had a very healthy, deep stable of running backs last year, and then Devon Achane came on the field and flipped it on its head and took it over. Okay. And was the highest yards per carry average back in NFL history. Who is to say that this isn't going to happen again and lightning isn't going to strike twice? The one thing I do know about Mike McDaniel from his time in San Francisco, remember, he was the run game coordinator. he was the expert and the eyes of identifying backs in terms of backs that would blossom and fit into this scheme. And I'm sorry, if you got the Midas touch, you keep on touching it, baby.
Well, that's beautiful. I mean, it's just got me going a little bit over here. But again, to me, isn't it? And this is where I think you and I have different overall views, because I can't love the pick, no matter how good the guy's going to become. If you're going to tell me he's going to become better than Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert, right on. I'm looking at problem solving again. What's my roster going to look like in a couple of years? How do I get past the roadblock that I've hit the past 2 years?
Mm-hmm. The problem is what? The problem is what?
Jaylen Wright gets you closer to reaching your goal?
Address the problem. What is the problem?
It's not running back production.
Okay, tell me what the problem is.
It's a combination of the offense doesn't work in December because it's built on finesse and speed, and that does not translate. Number one, when the weather gets bad. Number two, when the game is different in December and in the playoffs. I'm sorry, it's a different game.
We still have to run in December in the playoffs, don't we?
Again, you tell me where Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane anywhere remotely were part of the problem late last season.
Raheem Mostert wasn't on the field late last year.
Okay, correct. So you're going to get a third running back to
Neither was Devon Ahmed. Devon Achane had some broken ribs. So was the running back stable really deep enough?
So again, if you're going to tell me that the move was made to add running back depth, that's fine. I would tell you, to me, I don't know that's that much of a priority that you forfeit a 2023 third round pick when you're building with a 2-year view.
What I like is, you like a player, you go take him. Doesn't matter. The best selections that Chris Greer has ever made in his draft history, from Laramie Tunsil to Xavier Howard to Devon Achane, to our picks where he's got depth at the position, but he's just like, you know what? Let me get that. And if you like a player and you have a conviction about a player, you believe he's going to be a stud, you go get him. And even if that means trading up to go get him, I like that selection. And in fact, we asked in the media room, somebody asked us, who do you think out of this rookie class has the potential and the skill set to be the best pro in this crop of talent? And my answer was the Tennessee running back. He doesn't have all these holes in his game that everybody else has. He's got the talent and he's a player.
Well, hold on. If he was that surefire of a prospect, he wouldn't have been there at 120. Okay. Again,
backs get.
I understand backs get devalued. They don't get discounted until the 4th round if they're that special. Give me a break. And I'm not. And here's the thing. Let's also preface this. Again, as I said on the podcast, the previous podcast, conviction or not from anybody, draft analysts, so-called draft analysts, so-called draft gurus, there's always a margin for error. I'm sorry. And then again, if there's no margin for error, the guy's not there at 120. So if in 3 years we're going to look back, and if the guy was highly productive, it was an absolutely slam dunk of a pick. As it stands right now, and understand, this is why draft grades, I mean, fans, it's funny because fans, for the most part, love draft grades. And at the same time, a lot of them are like, they're garbage because they don't mean anything. The guys haven't played yet. And there's validity to both. To me, the way I look at the draft and how I evaluate the draft is what is accomplished. And unless it's a player that I've seen a lot in college that I have a conviction on, or that struck me in whatever limited viewing I've had, I'm going to look at how does it fit into the bigger picture of the team. And Jaylen Wright, for however good he might become, to me, does not solve what's ailing this team this year or next year, and he becomes an insurance. To me, he's a great explosive insurance policy.
Yes, and for a fourth round pick, you made the point of 120. Okay, I looked at the last 10 years. The picks in the 100 that have really had impact are Jelani Jenkins.
No,
He had an impact. He was a starter. He led the team in tackles one year.
he was not a difference maker though. But he was a starter.
He was an impact. Jakeem Grant at 186. That was special teams demon.
Yep.
Then we got, you want Durham Smythe, a 5-6 year starter. Andrew Van Ginkel at 151. We all know and love Andrew Van Ginkel. That's like it. That's like it. So you're telling me that if this kid becomes a respectable NFL prospect in the fourth round, that it's not going to like, what do you think? They're going to solve all their problems with a fourth round pick?
No, but again, if we're doing a 2-year view, you gave up an asset, you gave up a third round pick next year. And
his development is going to be sped up a year.
That's fine. But again, this is one of those where, okay, if he turns out to be everything that everybody who's in love with the guy says he's going to be, and it's all great and dandy, because one of the scouting reports I saw was benefited from great blocking up front. Is he going to always get great blocking up front? Maybe, maybe not. If he gets a hold, he's like Devon Achane. He's going to burn through it because he's that fast. But again, if Achane and Mostert stay healthy, this guy's not much of a factor at all as a rookie.
Maybe
and
not.
He's not much. His playing time is dependent on your top two guys getting hurt, because he's not getting the short yardage.
Maybe not.
Okay.
Devon Achane was a fourth running back when we began the season. Then he hit the field, and Devon Achane, he was a fifth running back when we began the season. Then he hit the field, and it was.
And how did he get into the lineup?
Injuries.
Thank you. This is what I'm saying. He's an insurance policy.
Okay. All right.
I don't hate the pick, but I don't think I'm like. And again,
I love that pick. The rest of the draft class, I'm like,
I know you love that pick. Trust me. And I may have liked other picks more than that one. So again, as with everything else, in 3 years we'll see what kind of player he is, and then we'll find out.
Yeah, let's move forward to the next selection, which is Muhammad Kamara. And this is a guy who was on my man crush list: 30.5 sacks, 45.5 tackles for loss, and undersized, very undersized, 6'1", 250-pound edge rusher. The one concern that I do have is, Colorado State doesn't exactly play the highest level of competition. How is he going to handle himself when he's being blocked by Teron Armstead and the big boys of the NFL? Can he be an edge setter? But I will say this: love the attitude, love the fight, love the motor, and just absolutely love some of the things. This is a guy who plays like with a chip on his shoulder, and he talks the talk. Now the question is, can he walk the walk? He talks like a dog. And I really, truly do hope that he comes to the NFL and plays like a dog. He said he was training with Chop Robinson and, in Arizona, and, they go at it and compete and push one another. And hopefully they do the exact same thing here in Miami.
I tweeted after we were done with the Zoom media session, based on the way he talked, and he's got bravado, and there's no timidity to him. I'm not even know if it's a word, but he's not timid in the least. I got massive Brian Cox vibes, and that's before your time. Brian Cox. Okay, so Brian Cox was a 5th round pick from Western Illinois, from East St. Louis, which is, from what I understand, a very rough neighborhood. I mean, and he was a badass. This is the guy who flipped the double birds to the Buffalo fans at one point, and it was like, you talk about Jarvis Landry being a dog. To me, sorry, Brian Cox is the biggest dog I've seen in my days covering the Dolphins. They were playing a Monday night game against the Cincinnati Bengals. I believe they were spanking him. Pete Stoyanovich was the kicker, kicks off, running down the field, la-di-da-di-da-di-da. A Bengals player blindsides the crap out of him. Stoyanovich goes, whoop. Brian Cox starts getting in the face of the guy, and as they're moving closer and closer, he's basically standing up in front of the entire Bengals sideline, thinking, anybody want a piece of me? The dude, was like bulldog. And those are the vibes I got from him. And I remember like Brian Cox interviews, same type of deal. And I was like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Give me. I can't wait to see that guy play. One other thing. And this is where, in terms of, there are similarities statistically, numerically, to former 5th round pick Curtis Weaver of Boise State. Again, hold on. I will explain why. Smaller conference with very high sack production, but not ideal physical dimensions. And the word on Curtis Weaver at the time was like, he doesn't look like a typical. He's not prototypical in terms of anything he does, but he just gets sacks. And then you see him in training camp, as we discussed the other day, and it's like, what? There's nothing there. I have a high level of confidence that there's something there with this guy. Yeah. That he's not going to give. I don't think you're going to look at a double-digit sack guy, but he's going to find a way to contribute. That's why I love the guy. It wasn't a man crush list, but doing the research after he was picked and hearing him on the Zoom media session, that's why I keep doing this with him. I like that.
Everybody that I respect in the evaluation game, from Louis Riddick to Duzebold, to I believe Simon Clancy brought him up to us. Everybody I respect loves this guy. And just an undersized, and there's no harm in being undersized, because really, if you can hold your point, you're good. But from a leverage standpoint, if you're 6'1", what's the big deal? You're low center of gravity. You've got leverage. You can control that offensive lineman. So I like it. I'm intrigued by it. I think he's got a legitimate shot, just as much as Chop Harris, to serve out there as the starter opposite Shaq Barrett early in the season. So, what?
Robinson, not Chop Harris. Chop Robinson.
Chop Robinson. What was I calling him? Charles Harris?
Yeah, maybe you had flashbacks calling him Chop Harris. That's
Chop Robinson. I think I'm curious to see how it happens. And one thing that I do love about this selection is I love the double dip in a draft, where you draft two players at one position, you let them grow, learn together, teach them together, develop together, room together, and may the best man win, and may the cream rise to the top. And I told this story in the draft room because he was saying he was training with Chop Robinson. I remember very vividly going out to Bomberitos.
And man, I heard that story already. Okay, tell it for the folks.
All right. Everybody doesn't hear every story. I remember going out to Bomberitos because I was there to see Devontae Parker and Devontae Parker train. And lo and behold, Stephon Diggs was out there. He didn't have a name. He was nobody. He was some Maryland prospect expected to be a 5th round pick. And he's like, oh, you here to see Devontae? All right, just watch me. Went out and did every single thing Devontae did right after Devontae did it, and did it better. And I was just like, holy crap, who is this guy? I need to have him on my team. And he's gone on to be a superstar. Some guys, you can just tell they got the dog. And this guy, you can tell he's going to bite you. So I'm very curious to see what happens with his career.
Okay, here's the one thing I will say though, and I think the fact that he's got the dog gives him a fighting chance. He is massively undersized as a pass rusher, and where I would take issue with you is when you're saying he's got to go to as good a chance as Chop. I'm not correct. I'm not
a day one starter. One of them's going to be a day one starter.
I'm not on board with you because Chop Robinson brings something special, and that's, uber special athleticism.
Okay, great.
To kind of compensate for the fact he's not terribly big.
Yeah.
Whereas
what's the
knock on Chop Robinson is he doesn't finish.
If doesn't finish, and there's questions whether he can set the edge. I'm just saying. We'll see.
Well,
we'll see.
Okay, but if we're going to be fair, you're looking at a guy who's 6'1", 250, and you have no concerns about him setting the edge.
No, I didn't say that. Sometimes setting the edge is about toughness in the fight and the dog.
Okay, but there's also a reason one guy's a 1st round pick, the other guy's a 5th round pick. So, I would be very surprised if one of those two starts and it's not Chop Robinson. Yeah, I would be surprised.
Hey, Ethan Bonner played over Cam Smith. It happens.
You're not wrong there. Touche. 6th round pick, the first one. This is the Dan Feeney pick. And for those Dolphin fans who may have forgotten about Dan Feeney, He was an unrestricted free agent signing from the New York Jets last year. Showed up at camp, was wearing like a knee compression sleeve for a good part of camp.
Just cut to the chase. He sucked. They guaranteed him $3.25 million, and he sucked. They traded him.
His performance was less than ideal. The Dolphins ended up trading him to the Chicago Bears for a 6th-round pick, which became that particular pick, which was 184. And the Dolphins took Malik Washington from Virginia, who started his collegiate career at Northwestern, led all FBS football bowl subdivision as opposed to Division 1A.
Football Bull S subdivision.
I preferred 1A and 1AA before, as opposed to this FBS and FCS. 110 catches. It was 110 catches, over 1,000 yards.
1,426 with 9 touchdowns.
Slot receiver, a lot to like about the guy. That pick I like a lot.
Well, the one thing that I found very interesting about, I'm going to lump in the Taj Marshall selection as well in the 7th round.
Washington, man, Jesus, are you punch drunk from the draft? Sorry.
Taj Washington, 5'10", 147 pounds, runs a 4.52. But he does have a ridiculous 18 yards per catch average. What's up with all the slot receivers? I know I said they need a slot receiver, but I generally wanted another receiver that would allow us to put Tyreek and Jaylen in the slot. Clearly, Mike McDaniel has a completely different vision for this offense than I feel like is necessary or needed. And they got Braxton Barris, they got River Craycraft, and now they got 2 rookie slot receivers along with Eric Uzukama, which maybe they feel like Uzukama can be that big physical receiver that they're missing.
He better be, because they don't have anybody else with any kind of size on that wide receiver. I know you wanted to. You were pounding the table for a wide receiver with size. Well, they weren't listening to you, because those 2 guys are kind of on the smaller side. But there's some toughness there. And Malik Washington, I'm trying to remember. I think he's got some very good speed, actually.
I think 4.38 or some one of them runs.
No, correct. Yeah, I would think that was it. And then the other one is like not quite as fast.
4.52, yeah. I mean, not to say the 4.52. I'm shaming the 4.52 guy. Yeah.
No, I like this one. This is a guy to me, and of course the question was asked of Mike McDaniel left in the post pick press conference about his opportunity, to compete for the starting job, and it was not really a very revealing answer. Like, the thing I love about him is he loves competition, and we got guys in the room with whom he'll be able to compete. It would not surprise me if this is a guy who could come in and wind up starting. He's obviously got the production numbers. It wouldn't shock me if he wound up starting, being your main slot guy at the start. Wouldn't surprise me.
I've just heard so many tales about how complicated this offense is to learn. I truly don't expect a rookie to come in here and contribute at a high level. They're 2 slot receivers, and I think the 7th round pick probably was just hey, he's still on board, let's just take it, because it's kind of overkill. I
wasn't talking about him. I was talking about Malik Washington.
Yeah, no, I just lumped him in.
Okay, well, he went to Northwestern and Virginia. I'm going to guess he probably can figure out an offense. And I get, it's really complicated. But
whoa, you trying to say he's a smart guy because he went to Northwestern and Virginia? I guess. Okay, all right.
They're both academically, I can't say it, but they could pronounce it, academically well-renowned schools.
All right, if you say so.
Unless I'm mistaken, I know Northwestern absolutely is. Unless I'm mistaken and I missed the memo that it's not anymore. Virginia is also a good academic institution.
Listen, I've just been here long enough to see receivers struggle learning this offense, and I don't expect anything different. So, if they do come in and they contribute right away, more props to them. I just find it very interesting that Mike McDaniel's positioning himself to put a stable of Smurf receivers out there on the field.
And why might that be? Because they're the upset. It's all about speed. It's all about speed. It's all about
You
finesse.
you can find speedy 6'2" receivers. Just a guess.
Generally speaking, if the 6'2" guy runs as fast as the Smurfs, you're not getting him in the 6th round. And this is part of my overall issue. And I go back to Jaylen Wright again. We're stocking up on speed. That does not address the issue that's keeping the Dolphins from getting to where they want to go, unless they think they can outrun their problems.
Yes. Then we get into the second 6th round pick, California safety Patrick McMorris. Runs a 4.52, 14 reps of 225, 6 foot, 207 pounds, moves with supposed fluidity, transfer from San Diego State to California, to Cal. I didn't necessarily, most people expected him to go undrafted. So obviously the Dolphins saw something that they said, hey, we don't want to compete with others to draft this young man. And instead of drafting him in the 7th round, we're going to select him in the 6th and see what can happen. I asked Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel about, hey, you guys look relatively thin at safety position, and they truly do. In regards to Javon Holland, Jordan Poyer, who's 32, turning 33, are the only 2 starting caliber safeties, and then you got Elijah Campbell. Usually, you want that safety unit at least 4 or 5 deep. I'm not necessarily certain that we might not be looking at an Ethan Bonner conversion to safety, because I know he practiced as a dime majority of the season. I'm very curious what's happening there, because even with the addition of California safety Patrick McMorris, they still look a little thin at that position.
Disagree and agree. Disagree with the Ethan Bonner fascination with moving him at safety. I agree. I don't think we've seen the last of safeties, and that goes beyond however many safeties they will sign as undrafted rookie free agents. I think that there are still some veterans out there.
Justin Simmons.
I know you're in love. You have the man crush on Justin Simmons. He's not the only one, because I know there were a ton of big team safeties.
Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams. There's a ton of safeties out there on the market looking for work.
Correct. And again, once the draft now is over, teams saw what they got. There'll be a second wave of free agency, and then the market's also, the prices have gone down.
And you don't have to give compensatory picks after the draft.
Yeah. So
it doesn't equate into the compensatory pick formula.
I would be inclined to think there will be another addition at safety of the veteran variety.
Hopefully,
and I'll be lying if I did the research after the pick, as just like everybody else, about Patrick McMorris. There's nothing that really stand out. He did have 4 picks 1 year because he was a transfer as well. He went from San Diego State to Cal, and then he had 4 picks. Oh, we forgot to mention that Mo Kamara, by the way, talked about picking the brain of another former Colorado State pass rusher, now with the Dolphins, that being Shaquille Barrett. But going back to McMorris, yeah, again, he's a late 6th round pick. If he pans out, it's great. Generally speaking, that would be a bonus.
Yeah, and then we get to the 7th pick selection, number 241, which is Taj Washington, which we talked about earlier, slot receiver, 59 receptions, 1,062 yards, 18 yards per catch, 8 touchdowns in the 13 games he played last year. He's also got some returner ability, so realistically, he's looking for that slot return specialist role. I think he was just a guy where they saw him still on the board. I asked Chris Greer how many players were on his board. He said roughly about 140 something. So this might be a pick where he was still on the board. Let's just use a draft. Let's just use a 7th round pick and get it at this point. And I've always said this. I think when you got past round 5 in this draft was pretty much empty. What was that?
No, I was checking something, so I'm sorry, I zoned out. I'm sorry. Go ahead. My apologies.
No,
you've done it to me before, so now it's my turn. So
I do it to you all the time. Yeah, I don't think this draft was. I'm not a big fan of this draft. I don't think it was top heavy. I think the body of this draft was in the middle of the draft in rounds 2 through 4. And 5, you're on fumes. At 6, you're about tapped out. And so anybody you get at 6, just draft the players and select the players that you like, that you want to develop, because who knows?
No, correct. And that's the thing is, and I like the idea and the thought of Malik Washington, and again, based on his production and based on the physical skill set, I think he has a chance, probably more so than your typical 6th-round pick, because usually you get to that point, right or not. I mean, the hit rate on 6th-round picks is not necessarily great, and we've seen that the last few years with the Dolphins. Like last year, I know a lot of Dolphin fans were really excited about the idea of converting Elijah Higgins from a Stanford wide receiver to tight end. How'd that pan out? And I absolutely remember Jared Dokes a couple of years ago. A lot of fans were like going crazy over him, and it's like,
oh, don't forget about Malcolm Perry.
Malcolm Perry, the guy who's going to be able to do everything. And even with some UDFAs that fans get like obsessed about. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. It was Quatrine Perry, maybe. I don't remember. It was a big running back, and then fans were hitting me up on Twitter like Dolphins got to steal with that guy, and my reply to them was, okay, let's hope so, but again, there's a reason the guy is a rookie free agent. Generally speaking, scouts know more than us. They know more than fans. They know more than the media. So there's a reason. Mm-hmm. To me, the issue I have, and I'm trying to determine whether the Dolphins are completely wrong in this, but it's like a difference in approach midstream. The Dolphins, and this we're talking about this. The analogy that we used before the draft was this: the diving over the cliff, going all in to try to win now. When they spent this huge money, when they got Tyreek, when they signed Teron Armstead, when they made the trade for Bradley Chubb, when they made the trade for Jalen Ramsey. I mean, if doesn't tell you they're going all in with the contracts that they gave, that the money they committed, that was an all-in proposition. And last year was the shot, and it came up short. And yes, Omar, I'm going to say it, partly because of injuries. Yes, but it came up short, and they were able to maintain. Yeah, they lost Christian Wilkins and Robert Hunt, but you're not going to tell me that this is a team that went from being among the top tier of teams to now all of a sudden, yeah, maybe we need to look more to the future than being all in. And while I understand and appreciate the approach of doing things for the future, how many of your main core guys, your big money guys, are going to be there? For example, when Patrick Paul reaches his apex, when Jaylen Wright becomes like a key member of the running group. Chop Robinson, I like more because there's a need now because of Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips and the uncertainty we have there. Patrick Paul, to me, was a luxury pick for a team that wouldn't be in a title contention window.
No argument there on the things that you're saying. And we even asked Mike McDaniel and Chris Kerr about that. And it's like, oh, we're twofold. We're trying to win now. And then we're also trying to look with keep an eye on the future. And that's how they operated. We can't sit here and rule out any of these guys, and that's where Mike McDaniel chimed in. You can't sit out here and rule dictate where any of these guys are going to be, or who they're going to play, how they're going to compete, how they're going to learn, whose jobs they're going to take. You don't know. What they did is they added talent, and I understand where they're coming from. They added talent. They saw more value in drafting a left tackle than they saw in a guard. They saw more value in drafting a pass rusher than they did in drafting a defensive tackle. They didn't focus on filling needs. They drafted 2 slot receivers late rounds and took a running back in the earlier, traded up to go take a running back. They weren't exactly needs that they filled, but as I said in previous podcasts and still stand on this, there are so many good free agents out there that if you have a need that you need to go fill, you can go fill it with Justin Simmons. You can go fill it with Calais Campbell. You can go fill it with an interior player that's still available in free agency. There are a couple of interior offensive linemen. And who's to say that those players will not be better, far better than any rookie that you would have drafted in year one? So
That's fair.
If we're just putting a pin in it and saying, okay, this draft was not used to fill needs, but we can flip it and go right back in free agency when the compensatory pick formula is done, and we're getting $18.5 million from Xavier Howard's money back, we can go out there and we can address some of our needs and really help our roster improve. Hey, I'm okay with it. So I think this is, I'm not disagreeing with you, because I've written a column for the Herald like, hey, this draft was basically like, you know what, 2024, let's table that and let's focus on the future.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that you can't focus on right now by going out and going to sign a Calais Campbell, or going and signing a Jamal Adams, or going out and signing a Justin Simmons, because you can.
Or Dalton Reisner.
Dalton, right? Yes, yes. I've always wondered, why does this guy keep not getting work?
I was, twofold, talking to somebody in Denver last year at the time when he was that one. He tends to have believe the phrasing was a higher opinion of his value than the reality, and also that his film shows him winding up on the ground quite a bit.
Yes, I remember that watching his film. He's on the ground quite a bit. And Butch Barry coached him in Denver when Butch Barry was fired. Remember that?
There you go.
So I really don't. And remember when the offensive lineman celebrated Butch Barry's firing?
Correct. And maybe he was part of maybe he was part of the celebration, and it got back to Butch Barry, and Butch Barry's telling Mike McDaniel, no, don't bring this guy.
But there's so many other offensive linemen that are out there that can help this team. And Mike McDaniel gave us a nice long lecture about the development of players, and basically insinuating that Liam Eichenberg and Rob Jones, they got higher opinions of them than we do, and I can respect.
Well, they should, because they're their coaches.
Yeah, I respect that. The question to me is, and I walk away from this draft asking this question, and I know I'm not the only one: did this draft help you address your finesseness and help you?
Hell no. Not no, hell no. But I will grant you a great point. Great point. Not a good point, a great point. That we should look at the offseason roster shaping as a whole. And I tend to be hyper-focused on the draft here, because that's what we've been immersed in for the past, for a good few months, especially now after the first wave of free agency. And if what they did was take care of their future in the draft as much as possible, and then they will use free agency to resume their all-in quest, then I'm gonna like this draft a whole lot more, to be very honest. But then the issue with that is, chances are, if you sign a guy like Justin Simmons, like Dalton Reisner, or another guard, whatever, or Calais Campbell, chances are we're going to be dealing with what you love, Omar, void years, because chances are those guys are going to get 2 year contracts with the second year's a void year. Say hi to whoever that was over there.
I wasn't looking at anybody.
Oh, you were looking smiling over there.
No, I wasn't looking at anybody.
Okay. So that would be
everybody here, but that's not.
I'll say hi to whoever's here.
There's nobody in the room at the present moment. Anyway.
Okay. So that's the only thing. But that would take part, again, if we're looking globally at the offseason. The offseason right now is incomplete. The draft itself, to me, has a chance to be really, really good for the future. I just don't know how much it did for 2024.
Definitely. So now we're going to do the ultra premature draft grades that we must do, because everybody does them.
No, we don't. And you know what? I don't. I didn't do a mock draft before, because, I mean, it's basically. I'm going to be honest about it. And the draft grade, come back to me in 3 years. We'll do a reunion show, and then we'll discuss the draft grade. For now, I don't know. What would you give it?
C+, primarily because you really didn't address many of your needs, or you did, but kind of late. And in fairness, defensive tackle, I guess you liked all 7 of the guys you added to your team. you like Brandon Peely. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Or it was a case of there's really 2 difference-making type prospects there, Brian Murphy and Jerjon Newton, one the latter of whom is coming as a Jones fracture, even though it's supposed to be fine. And then
you couldn't even throw in the kids, either the guard, the guard, the center, the defensive tackle. Like they're late round picks. But I guess Miami always what?
Because the Dolphins don't have their fascination with the U like you do. You love your U guys.
No. I have told you about one University of Miami player. That was it. One.
You just brought them up that they couldn't.
I'm just saying you could have threw them on the pile. You could have just threw them on the pile. Don't act like these slot receivers aren't just guys thrown on the pile.
The second one, maybe. Taj, with all due respect, maybe a little because he's 7th round pick and you're taking a shot. But I don't have an issue with that pick. I don't have an issue with them bypass. Dude, when becomes a relevant national program again, then we can talk about drafting Hurricanes players. Where's the lie?
Lee, the center. Come on, Liam. So Liam Eichenberg is literally the backup center this season again. Is that correct? As
it stands right now, probably, yeah.
Okay, all right. And then what happens if he's your starting right guard?
Who else is Lester Cotton? Didn't Lester Cotton have some center? He practiced at center times. My God, the Lester Cotton hate is like, man.
There's no Lester Cotton hate. Stop. I like Lester.
I would almost say it's picking on Cotton. It's cotton picking. Sorry.
All right. But you made me give a grade. You got to give a grade.
Yeah, I kind of agree with your C+.
All right. Okay.
I like it again. I like it more if they fill veteran safety. Be nice to upgrade our right guard.
Calais Campbell, baby.
Oh my God, you have this fascination with. Those are the 2 spots. I don't know that they have a ton of, but I am concerned about the safety position because Jordan Poyer has a terrific career. But he wasn't the same Jordan Poyer last year in Buffalo, and it wasn't because of injuries. And how much can you count on him, and how much can he give you? It makes me a little, to use the word.
I would love to add a Justin Simmons and then move Javon Holland to slot. Just me, just thinking out loud.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We will be back. We're gonna wrap this up. We will be back.
Tomorrow.
No, we're not doing anything tomorrow.
Oh, you're right. Tomorrow's Sunday.
Monday, we're going to do a farewell, a bye-bye to Omar live podcast. Omar, you can dictate the time. I think we had talked about maybe early evening, 7 p.m.
Yeah. Let's evening. Put it in the chat what time you guys want it at. 5, 6, 7. Give us the best time. Give us the best time.
Okay. And we'll, like I said, we'll discuss big picture in general with the Dolphins stand and all that, and we'll send off Omar in style.
Yeah. And you'll tell them what your plans are. Because everybody's dying to know what your plans are.
If they're finalized by then, I'm like, I got things.
You got contracts out, negotiations ongoing.
I have ideas.
You have ideas. Okay.
I have ideas. There are a couple of possibilities, and I'm kind of intrigued by all of them.
All right. Let's make it happen, because I definitely want to see whatever this podcast is called continue to keep going. I'm always going to be a fan. So on that note, folks, that's the end of our draft coverage. We will see you on Monday. Hasta mañana.